You know that feeling, right? That constant hum, like you're always on, even when you're just sitting there. Maybe it's the stiffness in your neck or that mental fog that just kind of creeps in. You feel drained, but you keep pushing. I think most of us know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. What if the real secret to feeling better and actually thinking sharper, maybe even having those aha moments, what if it isn't about grinding harder, but about pausing smarter?
Yeah, it really sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a world that just glorifies the hustle, constantly pushing. So the idea of stepping back, it can feel like, well, like slacking off. But today, we're going to dive into some genuinely fascinating research, and it shows why these pauses, even really small ones, are absolutely crucial, not just for feeling okay, but for actually performing at your best.
So it's not just about avoiding burnout, it's about boosting performance too.
Exactly. Our mission in this deep dive is to explore the profound, scientifically proven benefits of different kinds of breaks. We've looked at a whole stack of sources, everything from fitness guides with practical tips to some really rigorous scientific studies and even discussions about workplace norms today. The goal really is to equip you with insights you can actually use so you can optimize your day and, well, feel more energized and effective overall.
Okay, let's start with the problem itself, that constant connection, the sedentary habits. What's the real toll? I mean, feeling stiff and sore after hours sitting, we've all been there. And there's that stark statistic, right? The average American spends something like 6.5 hours a day just sitting.
That's right. And that much sitting, even if you're someone who exercises regularly, it carries significant health risks. We're talking increased likelihood of heart disease, depression, even a sluggish metabolism. And physically, it really contributes, often silently, to chronic pain, neck, shoulders, lower back. It can even up your risk of injury. Our bodies just weren't built for being static for so long.
Okay, but here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. It's not just the sitting itself, is it? It's what we're often doing while we sit, staring at screens.
Exactly. We're more connected than ever, which has upsides, of course. But the research is uncovering a pretty profound dark side to all this screen time.
Dark side sounds ominous. What are we talking about here?
Well, a big literary review pulled together a lot of this. It detailed widespread adverse effects impacting us physically and mentally in ways we're maybe only just starting to really get. So beyond the obvious stuff like eye strain, think about this. Constant screen use is linked to obesity, hypertension. It can even mess with your cholesterol levels and contribute to insulin resistance.
Wow, okay. That's more serious than just tired eyes.
Definitely. Your eyes do take a hit, of course, headaches, dry eyes, impaired vision. But there's also this link between less outdoor time, less natural light, and a higher risk of myopia, nearsightedness. Apparently, that outdoor light helps trigger dopamine release in the retina, which is protective.
Huh. I never knew that about dopamine in eyes.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And then there's the orthopedic strain, the way we kind of hunch over our phones and laptops. Bad posture, musculoskeletal pain, it's all connected. Plus those frequent wrist movements, the head tilting, it adds up. Some studies even suggest a negative link between screen time and bone density in kids.
And you mentioned something about radiation earlier. That sounds a bit scary.
Well, it's an emerging concern, particularly for children. Their neurological systems are still developing, their brain tissue is more conductive, so they might be more susceptible to radiofrequency electromagnetic radiation from wireless devices. Plus, they just have a longer lifetime exposure ahead of them. And another surprising area is the link, in some studies, between smartphone exposure, the RFEMR, and maybe even heat and potential issues with male fertility. It just shows how far-reaching the effects might be.
Wow, okay. That is a lot to take in.
Like
these devices are silently kind of rewiring us.
Oh, they really are in some ways. And the psychological impacts are just as significant. Screen time can trigger what's called hyperarousal. You feel wired but tired, can't switch off. It also increases stress hormones, can mess up your body clock, and just drains your mental energy. And we see this clear link with FOMO fear of missing out, driving problematic internet use, that constant anxiety about missing something.
Yeah, that feeling is definitely real.
And sadly, there are strong links between social media addiction and things like depression, self-doubt, even suicidal thoughts. Often, lack of sleep is a big factor mediating that.
And what about kids and focus? ADHD seems to come up a lot in these discussions.
It does. Excessive digital device use is really common among kids and teens, showing ADHD symptoms in attentiveness, hyperactivity, impulsivity. The direction of causality is complex, but the correlation is there. And the neuropsychological changes are, well, concerning. Internet addiction can lead to actual structural changes in the brain, especially the frontal lobe. That's your control center for filtering things out, handling complexity, managing impulses.
So it physically changes the brain.
Some studies suggest that, high-screen multitasking, for example, has been linked to less gray matter in regions tied to cognitive control. This can result in poorer conflict detection, maybe more neuroticism, more impulsivity.
It's genuinely reshaping our neural pathways. And I'm guessing sleep takes a massive hit from all this, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge factor. First, screen time often displaces physical activity. Then there's the blue light, which directly interferes with melatonin production, messing up your circadian rhythms.
Right, the whole don't look at screens before bed advice.
Exactly. Plus, notifications can wake you up. Engaging with intense content or multitasking online right before bed, that leads to shorter sleep, later bedtimes, and feeling wiped out the next day. Just having a device in the bedroom is linked to significant sleep disruption. And beyond sleep, this excessive use is tied to attention lapses, mind wandering, which then links to lower social support, feeling less connected to peers, lower life satisfaction. It can create this cycle where you seek connection online because you feel disconnected offline, which just reduces real-life interaction further.
Okay, wow. So this paints a pretty bleak picture if we just keep going like this. Powering through clearly isn't the answer. But you said there's good news here, the science of breaks. This is where it gets hopeful, right?
Absolutely. This is where the really exciting research comes in. Cutting-edge studies are showing exactly how breaks, even short ones, profoundly benefit the brain. There was this amazing NIH study. Volunteers learned to type a numeric code. And the really mind-blowing part, most of the learning gains, the actual skill improvement, happened during brief 10-second rest periods, not while they were actively practicing.
Wait, seriously, 10 seconds of rest did more than the practice. How does that even work? That feels wrong somehow.
It feels completely counterintuitive, right? But what they saw was that the brain activity patterns from the typing were being replayed, like a fast-forward movie, about 20 times faster during these little rests. This replay happened around 25 times per rest period, especially early in learning. And crucially, how often this rapid replay occurred predicted how much the memory was strengthened.
So the brain is like frantically consolidating information during those pauses.
Pretty much. It suggests wakeful rest is just as vital as practice for learning skills. The brain needs that downtime to compress and lock in the memories. And what's even more fascinating is that brain regions we didn't typically associate strongly with this type of procedural memory, like the hippocampus and entorhinal cortex, were super active during these rests. This opens up really interesting possibilities, maybe even for things like stroke rehabilitation.
That's incredible. So these tiny pauses are doing heavy lifting in the background.
Exactly. And this connects nicely to another concept, something called the Basic Rest Activity Cycle, or BRAC. It was proposed by Nathaniel Kleitman, a sleep research pioneer. Think of it like your brain having its own internal rhythm and ebb and flow operating throughout the day. It's an ultradian rhythm, shorter than the 24-hour circadian rhythm, lasting about 90 minutes, give or take, maybe 80 to 120 minutes.
So even when we're awake, our brains aren't meant to be constantly on at full power. There's a natural cycle.
That's the idea. The pattern suggests roughly 70 minutes or so of alert, focused brain activity, followed by about 20 minutes where brain waves naturally slow down a bit. You might feel a bit tired, foggy. Your body and brain are preparing for the next wave of alertness.
Okay, that makes sense. I definitely feel that dip sometimes mid-morning or afternoon.
We all do. Now, there's some scientific debate about how clear-cut this BRC is during wakefulness compared to sleep. But recent meta-analyses do suggest these ultradian cycles impact things like our focus and reaction time while awake. So even with those scientific nuances, the basic principle is widely used as a really practical time management tool. You often hear it called the 90-minute solution, working in focused bursts that align with these natural brain rhythms.
Right, our brains are maybe a bit like toddlers. They need that flip between stimulation and rest to stay happy and, well, functional.
Yeah.
Trying to push through that dip. Okay, so we know breaks are crucial. But it's easy to just think of a break as, stopping work. You mentioned there are different kinds of breaks.
Yes, and this distinction is really important because not all breaks are created equal. We often fall into what you might call breaks by default.
What do you mean by that? Like scrolling through social media?
Exactly. Mindless scrolling, sort of half relaxing, maybe feeling a bit guilty afterwards because it wasn't really intentional and you don't feel recharged. Then on the other extreme, you have breaks by burnout. These are the ones forced on you by extreme exhaustion or actual sickness from overworking. They're obviously devastating for health and not enjoyable at all.
Been there. Not fun.
Definitely not. So the sweet spot, the optimal kind, are breaks by choice. These are intentional, guilt-free, hopefully enjoyable, and they genuinely recharge you. It's a conscious decision to balance that immediate need for rest with your longer-term goals.
Okay. Breaks by choice. And within that category, you mentioned micro breaks earlier.
Yes. Micro breaks are incredibly powerful. We're talking really short pauses, maybe 30 seconds up to just a couple of minutes, taken frequently throughout the day. Think about it. Legal minimums might say 1 20-minute break in a 6-hour shift, right? But for tasks needing real focus, that's just not enough, especially if our average attention span is hovering around, say, 14 minutes, as some research suggests.
13 minutes. Wow. Okay, so those tiny breaks become absolutely essential then.
They really do. And the benefits stack up. They give your brain that crucial mini rest, allow for a bit of memory processing. They can increase accuracy when you return to a task, boost engagement, improve your mood. Plus, physically, they disrupt those bad postures, lower the risk of aches, fight fatigue, and get blood and oxygen flowing again.
And what counts as a micro break? Does checking my phone count?
It can, if it's intentional and brief and doesn't suck you into a long distraction. But other great examples are quick stretches, getting up for a glass of water, a short walk down the hall, maybe brief chat with a colleague, switching to a completely different type of task for a minute, or even just staring out the window and letting your mind wander for 60 seconds.
Right, like those desk stretches we talked about, that stiffness, those are perfect micro breaks you can do right there.
Absolutely. They're a fantastic example of an effective micro break. You don't even need to leave your desk.
Can you remind us of a couple of good ones?
Sure. Remember those shoulder and neck rolls? Just rolling backwards then forwards, gently tilting your head side to side, holding for 15-30 seconds. Simple neck rotations. For arms and wrists, interlace your fingers, palms out, push forward, or just do some wrist circles. For posture, that chest stretch, stand up, clasp hands behind your back, lift the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades. Or seated, hands behind head, pull elbows back gently.
And lower body too, right? Sitting hits the hips hard.
It does. That figure 4 stretch is great. Cross an ankle over the opposite knee, gently press the raised knee down, hold 30 seconds each side, standing quad stretches, calf stretches against a wall, even simple ankle circles, 10 each way. Or just pressing your toes down to stretch your feet. These little movements make a real difference.
Okay, so physical micro breaks, check. But you also mentioned a mental component. Mindful breaks, how are they different?
Mindful breaks are also short, maybe 1 to 5 minutes, but the focus is specifically internal. It's about intentionally grounding yourself, focusing on your breath, increasing your awareness, or doing a quick sensory reset. The key difference from, say, mindless scrolling is the intention and the focus. You're deliberately tuning in, not tuning out distractedly.
And there's science behind this too, even for just a few minutes.
Oh, yes. Even brief mindfulness practice helps regulate the autonomic nervous system. That means reducing stress, lowering blood pressure, improving heart rate variability. It also benefits the prefrontal cortex you're planning and self-regulation hub. It can increase white matter density in areas linked to attention and emotional well-being and enhance your actual attentional control. It actively combats the effects of things like vicarious trauma, decision fatigue, and general burnout.
So what does a mindful break actually look like? Is it just sitting and breathing?
Breathing is a great one. Breath awareness techniques like box breathing, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, or the 4-7-8 method are really effective. But it could also be visual grounding. Just intentionally gazing out a window, noticing details, or visualizing a calm scene in your mind. Or sensory check-ins, doing a quick body scan, notice sensations, splashing cold water on your face, maybe smelling some essential oils. Even gentle movement can be mindful, those same shoulder rolls or neck stretches, done with awareness. Or a short, slow walking meditation, just focusing on the feeling of your feet on the floor.
That sounds surprisingly doable. Just a few minutes to reset.
Exactly. And don't forget other types of breaks, too. Relaxing breaks, just pure downtime. Help reset your mood and bring your systems back to baseline. Social breaks are important, too. Chatting with colleagues fosters that sense of connection, which aids recovery.
Okay, and what about creativity? Those aha moments often seem to happen when we're not focusing.
Yeah.
How do breaks play into that?
That's the power of strategic unfocus. It sounds paradoxical for productivity, right? But allowing your mind to just drift, to wander, is absolutely crucial for creative thinking. That's when your brain starts making connections between disparate ideas, processing memories, reflecting. It's the classic shower thoughts phenomenon. The solution pops into your head when you're relaxed and not actively tackling the problem.
So how do we Plan to unfocus. That seems weird.
You can actually schedule it. Maybe block out 20, 30 minutes a week for what you might call intentional thinking or mind wandering. No specific goal other than to let ideas surface. Maybe do some mind mapping or just doodle. Give your brain permission to explore without pressure.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory. We know why breaks are good, but actually taking them, especially when you feel buried in work, that's the hard part. How do we make this a real habit?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It takes conscious effort. A few practical strategies can help embed this. First, simple reminders. Set alarms on your phone, use calendar alerts, whatever works to just nudge you. Second, make the break appealing. Plan something you actually want to do, even if it's just listening to one song you love or stepping outside for fresh air.
So reward yourself for taking the break.
Kind of, yeah. Make it something positive. Third, actively notice the benefits. Pay attention to how you feel after a break more focused, less tense. That positive reinforcement makes you more likely to do it again. Fourth, visual cues can be surprisingly effective. A simple post-it note on your monitor saying pause or breathe can make a difference.
I like that. What about for people with really structured days, like back-to-back meetings or client sessions?
That's where strategies like the 50-minute hour come in. If you're a therapist, for example, ending sessions 10 minutes early creates that built-in buffer for a mindful pause, quick notes, and resetting before the next client. Block scheduling can also help group similar tasks or appointments together, then schedule a slightly longer break between the blocks rather than tiny unusable gaps. And finally, environment matters. If possible, create a designated restorative space, even if it's just a comfy chair in a quiet corner or making a point to step outside.
That makes sense. But what about workplace culture? Especially now with so much remote work, the lines are blurry. Is it okay to take these breaks? What are the expectations?
That's a really important point. We looked at discussions among remote workers, and there's definitely variation and sometimes confusion about break policies. Official rules vary by state or country. Some mandate paid breaks beyond lunch, others don't. A common setup for, say, an 8-hour shift might be 2 15-minute paid breaks and a 30-60-minute unpaid lunch. But in many flexible remote setups, the culture is shifting. What we're seeing is that many managers are encouraging autonomy focus on getting the work done rather than clock watching. It highlights the need for a positive, agile working culture where people feel genuinely comfortable taking the breaks they need without feeling judged or worrying it looks like they're slacking.
So ideally, the culture supports it because breaks actually help productivity in the long run.
Exactly. A culture that recognizes breaks as essential fuel, not lost time.
And this isn't just about us, is it? Taking breaks ourselves. It's something we can model for others, too.
Absolutely. If you're in a leadership role or even working with clients or colleagues, modeling this behavior is powerful. A therapist might integrate a quick grounding exercise at the start of a session or offer one during a tough moment. You can frame these as practical tools like emotional first aid, helping people build their own skills for regulation and distress tolerance. It normalizes the idea that pausing is a strength, not a weakness, and encourages others to find what works for them.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. The big takeaway seems crystal clear. Breaks aren't a luxury. They're not downtime in the negative sense. They are powerful, essential tools. Tools for our physical health, our mental clarity, even our creativity and learning. They're not optional. They're fundamental.
Precisely. And if we zoom out and connect this to the bigger picture, we live in this increasingly digital, always-on, demanding world. The pressure is relentless. Learning to pause intentionally, to build in these moments of rest and reset, it's becoming more critical than ever. It's fundamental for our resilience, our sustainability, our overall well-being. It really is about working smarter, aligning with our biology, not just pushing harder against it.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given everything we've discussed, the profound impact of even these short, intentional pauses on our brains, our bodies, our ability to learn and create, how might a real societal shift towards valuing unfocused and intentional rest over just constant onness reshape things, not just for us as individuals, but for our collective capacity for innovation, for empathy, for well-being? What small intentional pause will you choose to take today, knowing the ripple effect it can have?